brothers and sisters, it's Lori and Spagna here with you today to chat briefly about some of the upcoming energies that are coming into Earth right now and what's going on for the remainder of this year of what we know as 2022. First, I want to chat mostly about the opportunity for the real transformation that's going on for humans and for animals and for all of Earth. The opportunity is that the incoming energies are providing us these pushes, these triggers to catalyze transformation within each and every one of us. And the triggers themselves typically do not feel very pleasant, but they serve us to awaken us in our journey toward healing and wholeness. And the triggers tend to get amplified during peak portal windows. The next upcoming one, really peak portal window, well, we have one on 9/9, but 11/11 is going to be a significant one, and then 12/12 through 12/21. These peak windows bring in intensified energies, as many of us know, from the higher realms, that in especially the balance of this calendar year will be triggering those parts of us that are looking for healing, those parts of our unconscious. Now, what we're talking about here is an opportunity or opportunities, repeated opportunities for healing. And when we talk about healing, we're talking about removing, often referred to by me and others as shadow aspects, but can easily be referred to as parts of our unconscious and conscious that create obstacles, issues, upsets, anxieties, fear, worry, doubt, frustration, where we're stuck or trapped, where we feel there's some kind of obstacle or block or path or something in our way, and especially where there are traumas and or core wounding. Core wounding is under typically so many levels and layers of our consciousness. It's under so many it's in the depths of entanglement in our energy fields. That's core wounding. We can usually trace it back, if we're conscious enough, to childhood. And if we're pretty awakened, we can trace it back to other parallel realities, alternate lifetimes, right? Other lifetimes. We might identify it in past lifetimes, in some form of regression or meditative process, or through our own access into our own Akashic records. Regardless of where these triggers or core woundings or traumas exist, the overall opportunity is for us to heal and resolve them. And they become very unpleasant if we don't. And they show up in the people around us, in our relationship dynamics, in the mirror that reflects to us from the external world. And if we're wise and we're looking and we're taking full responsibility for our experience, we can see and perceive that what shows up in the external reality is reflection of self. And that becomes the opportunity, another opportunity to identify the triggers or the obstacles or the traumas and resolve them, or the wounding, to resolve them. That is working with the shadow aspect of self, recognizing that what we do not like, what we judge, what we resist, what we condemn, what we have issue with in any way, shape, or form is our own shadow aspect, our own obstacle, our own trauma, our own wound that is begging for resolution, that is looking and seeking to be healed and resolved. So this is what's going on for the balance of the year. It has been going on, of course. It's being intensified as always. It intensifies during these peak windows. And for me as a healer and as someone who has been so dedicated to my journey and to helping others to heal and resolve these issues within themselves, I want to say that every single thing is healable. Everything is healable. It doesn't matter how we identify, whether it's a physical or emotional or mental dis-ease. whether it is a relationship issue with friends, colleagues, career, or money, or even our animals or our loved ones, spouses, children. It does not matter how it shows up. It is healable and resolvable. And so we now have this very, very powerful window for the balance of this year the window never ends, but what's so important about the window period is that when you do your healing, you're leveling up. And healing, again, is just a word for resolving these issues we're talking about. You get the opportunity to level up to a more expanded state of consciousness and, of course, a higher vibration. We use the word higher, relatively speaking, but we mean pure. And in that expanded state of consciousness, where you're vibrating at a purer state, you are freed and liberated from the pain or suffering that was associated with that trigger, that core wound, that trauma, whatever it was. And again, it's that the goal is to free and liberate yourself from whatever limitation you've been experiencing. That limitation has caused you some form of discomfort, upset, sadness, grief, stress, anxiety, misery. Those are all the catalyzing forces to get you, meaning all of us, to make the change, to utilize this time on Earth right now to resolve these things. And, unfortunately, a lot of times people tend to view healing as something they do for a disease, a physical disease. But what I'm suggesting is that you don't want to wait for your emotional, mental, energetic, spiritual core traumas and wounds to turn into a physical disease. They turn into physical disease when they are not addressed. That becomes the body's way of communicating, hey, it is time to do something about this, and now I'm going to limit you on the physical plane because you have not addressed this on the non-physical plane. So that is what healing is to me, is that we don't have to wait for it to show up in our physical body where there's so much density that it causes dis-ease in the physical form. We want to address it at more of the root cause, which is in the non-physical. And that's why we do energy healing. That's why we work with this, because it's not only is it preventative, but it also propels you forward into aligning with a more benevolent, best experience, life experience. It significantly improves the quality of your life and significantly improves your mirrored reflection of the reality that reflects back at you. The physical world, of course, is a reflection of who you are. Your unique experiences reflect back to you through the people, the places, and the situations around you. So I'd like to give you a couple of examples about this to help you in your learning, and so that you understand, because there is nothing, as I said earlier, nothing that cannot be healed or resolved in your life if you are willing to apply the energy from the non-physical realm that comes in by the way of divinity, divine source, and helps illuminate you as a light being, illuminate the light within you. Just a couple of examples. I have a very dear friend who had a very strong polarized experience with regard to the whole COVID phenomena, and also a very strong polarized experience to the vaccine agenda. Let me clarify what I mean polarized. In her expanded state of consciousness, she still was holding for a long time, many years, obviously it's been 3 years overall, of extreme resistance to it, judgment and wrongness, perceiving wrongness in the entire experience. And so her reality was reflecting to her problems and challenges through her life experiences with her relationships. Even when she wanted to go out for an evening, she would find either the theater or somewhere she wanted to go. She would be sort of forced or coerced to take certain kinds of tests that she didn't want to take and didn't agree with. She would run into people who were experiencing great pain and suffering because of it. She was having extremely polarized experiences that were very upsetting to her, because she was internally in a state of duality on this, a polarized experience. And she would look at my life and say, Lori, you're not having that experience because you're traveling across country. You're in states where it's not as big of an issue. You're alone, so you don't have that kind of an issue. And I can understand that someone would perceive that. So she believed that if she really located her physical body to a state in the country where this was not an issue, in this case, we're using the example of Florida, she believed that the issue would go away and would be lessened. And when she came here, needless to say, the issue did not go away, and nor was it lessened for her. In fact, it continued on, even though she was around all new people and an entirely new environment. Why? Because within her, she was in a polarized state. And even though now we've been living in the same geographical region, we are having two entirely different experiences. So regarding that topic area. So for me, I've been in a very, what I call divinely neutral state about that. And by being in a divinely neutral state, I have no push-pull in my experience. I have no duality in my experience about this. I have none of the unpleasant personal experience. And therefore, I can assist humanity to up-level better because I don't get caught in the push-pull polarity. This is one example of why it is so important to do our healing. Just one example, just one little example, because as we clear the triggers within ourselves, the core wounds, our experience changes and the quality of our life improves. And of course, we have to get to those core wounds. So the average person does not necessarily know how to find those woundings. We're calling them woundings, core wounds, traumas, shadow aspects, and upsets within themselves. And even most healers are not prepared, not able typically to find those core wounding and the energies of them beyond what we call the fourth dimensional or fifth dimensional bandwidth. But in reality, those core woundings exist and typically are created at the minimal, at what we call the sixth dimensional bandwidth, which is beyond what most healers can access. This is why very often people think, sometimes people think, they got a healing and it didn't work. It doesn't mean it didn't work. It just means, in very many cases, that the healer involved was not able to access a dimensional bandwidth beyond what we call 5D. So 5D is still a physical world where we exist now. And in order to do the transformational healing, we have to go beyond that to a pure frequency bandwidth where those issues don't exist and also where the solutions to those issues can be accessed. So this is what we're dealing with right now. And this is why I say everything is healable. I was going to give you some more examples, but to keep this more brief, I will abstain from that for now and maybe give you some other examples at a future time. What I really want to get through here is that you can overcome any obstacle. You can heal and resolve any trauma. You can heal and resolve every core wound. It's just that you need to be able to get yourself in vibrational bandwidth with a pure enough state, energy bandwidth, where that can be completely transformed, whatever that core wounding or trauma is or obstacle. And so in that pure state, that's where the transformational healing can take place. So this is what I'll be doing in the upcoming, and of course I want to mention this to you, to facilitate and support this community, our community. I will be doing this in the next live group healing and training event. We call it a group healing and training event because you learn as much as you get healing. And because we're working at such a high and pure state of energy, stuff gets healed and resolved very quickly and pulled from your entire, what we call morphogenetic field. So it's no longer in your morphogenetic field, which is when it's fully resolved, there is no residue. There is no longer a residue. It doesn't ever need to show up again. And that's what we want right now. That's what this whole journey of awakening and ascension is, so that we can up-level not only our vibration, but of course our life experience. So, okay, this is a live event coming up, this group healing and training event. Of course, it's by webinar. You don't have to be on the call live because the energy and the meditation, of course, comes from the frequency bandwidth, the dimensional reality where time and space do not exist. So in the current now, whenever you're working with that energy, you will, of course, be supported by it and receive the benefits of it. So you don't have to be there live, although it certainly is fun to be there live because, of course, it's intensified by the other participants in the live event. Either way, you get the benefits. And also live, you will be more likely able to ask questions and ask for specific healing that's unique to you. Of course, it's always customized to the people who are registered and their animals, because we always include our animals. So the date of it is Monday, September 26th. It's at 5 p.m. Eastern. And of course, that's if you're, depending where you are in the world, but if you're on the Pacific coast, right, 2 p.m. And this group healing and transformational event, it's very powerful. In this particular one, we're going to be working largely with what we call getting into the core of our being, which is really a tool that everybody needs to know how to do. I'm in the process of developing a very high-end membership program where I will teach this. But for now, until that's available, I suggest you get in at the current rate because at a certain point in the future, this will not be available. Not at this low rate that I do it here now, which is, this is very advanced, progressed information and energy and consciousness. But at the same time, you don't have to be progressed or advanced to benefit. You just will progress at a very accelerated rate because the energies that I work with are so pure. So the other thing I want to say too about it is that while we're doing this energy and we're working with not only getting into the core pillar, we're going to be also working with your neural net. Now, what does that mean? Your neural net, which is energetically part of, encompassed in not only your physical form, in other words, within your brain, but it is also part of the mental body. And you see, most humans on Earth are overly mentalized, over-mentalizing. This is why people have things like anxiety, nervousness, frustration, mostly like the mental issues, overthinking things, over-dramatizing things, not being able to figure something out, getting stuck in what we call looping patterns where they keep recreating the same thing over and over again. Also, their own inability to see and perceive themselves in the external world. I'll give you another example about that in a moment. So they get stuck in this because the mental neural net and the mental body has been overdeveloped. Why? Because over lifetimes we have overdeveloped our reptilian brain. We have overutilized our reptilian brain. We've been influenced, we could say, by reptilian ancestors, predecessors, right? And that has influenced us overusing our mental body, our mental field, including our own neural net. And so we have to bring this into balance so we can come out of the overstimulation of our nervous system. Because right now on planet Earth, especially if you're a sensitive, especially if you're an empath, especially if you're a healer or an intuitive. Your nervous system, if you're like me, has been taxed. And I've been working on this for myself intensely for the past 3 years. And I finally really got these gifts down so that I can start sharing this with others in a whole new way. I've never shared this stuff publicly in this way because I've been working on it for myself over the past 3 years and a few of my very close inner circle clients. But really what we're talking about is reformulating and rebalancing the neural net and the mental overutilization of the reptilian brain. Now, at the same time, by learning to get in your core, in the core of your being, you will also start to expand and improve the balance of the brain matter in your own sacred heart. We do know scientifically that our hearts do have brain matter. Very underdeveloped for most people at this time and extremely underdeveloped for people who have never meditated or done any kind of energy healing. However, very easy to begin developing, especially once we start to bring into balance the neural net and the overuse of the reptilian brain with what's meant to become a more balanced approach to utilizing more of our sacred heart center, the doorway to the multidimensional heart, and accessing and utilizing more of our heart brain. So that's what we're going to be focusing on in our next healing circle. I did say I wanted to give you another example. Another dear friend of mine who is, a highly intuitive, highly empathic being tends to recreate in his spiritual journey this. I've known him for 15 years and I have witnessed this over 15 years. And it's an area where he is blocked, right? So his mental brain creates a push-pull in all relationships. I want you, I don't want you. I'm coming towards you, I'm moving away from you. I'm going to engage with you and we're going to have a close relationship. I'm going to push you away. And he can't understand why he is unable to meet and unite with a partner of his desire and why he has continued to have multiple divorces in his life. And this is because he's engaged in a push-pull dynamic stemming from a core wound related to abuse and trauma that he has been unable to access, unable to clear in his own field because he's in the experience and so his energy field and his energy body is completely entangled in this wounding pattern, in this trauma of abandonment and trauma associated in relationships, a lack of safety in relationships, a lack of feeling safe. And so even though he desires a partnership, a healthy relationship with a partner, he continually gets in them and then he pushes them away. And he does that to everyone who gets close to him. And every partner who he ends up going for, who he wants and desires in his life, then she in turn pushes him away too. So this mirror reflects in his life and he cannot see within himself that this is a reflection of his own pattern. It's a trauma for him, so he's in a looping pattern. And until the trauma is cleared from his field, consciously and unconsciously, and he is realigned between his neural net and his own sacred heart center, and until that energy dynamic is cleared from his field beyond the fifth dimensional frequency bandwidth, he will continue to be in this looping pattern where he wonders why he cannot attract his divine partner and why every woman that he does attract pushes him away. And he doesn't see that he's doing the same thing to others around him. This is another example of how this manifests in our reality. We don't see ourselves in the others because we're engaged too deeply and our overactive reptilian brain is not utilizing the full balance between our heart and our brain. We're not able to utilize that because we have an overactive reptilian brain and an underactive heart brain. So again, this is what we'll be working on, healing and resolving for ourselves in the upcoming group healing and training event. I hope you will join me. This is very, very progressed, very advanced energy work for people who want to accelerate their journey. And it is incredibly affordable. In fact, right now there's a discounted rate, so get in there before the rate increases. But you do not have to be advanced to participate. You just have to be willing. You have to be willing, and you have to be open-minded enough to sustain, to be present and participate, to say, I'm willing to receive, accept, and allow the healing that is right and appropriate for me. That's all you have to do if you consider yourself to be new to this, or if you consider yourself to be unsure or uncertain, or even perhaps in some form of doubt or skepticism or disbelief. Because this stuff is real and it works. And for the past 20 years, I can say I am living proof of the incredible, profound results and the issues that I have healed and resolved in my own life. Dynamics that there were times I thought would never change. I had finally, after so many years, given up on some of it, and then finally there was a breakthrough. So, and a lot of times that's what happens, right? But regardless, we don't need to get ourselves to such a point where we have a breakdown to break through. That's awesome, but why do we need to do that, right? That's what's happening on the global stage. The global stage is that people are being pushed to their limit. COVID's an example, for example, being pushed to their limit so they have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. We don't need to get to that point. Let's do this in a much more joyful, loving, gentle, kind, and benevolent way for each and every one of us, so that we don't have to have a breakdown to break through, so that we can heal and resolve this in ways that are good and right and appropriate and for our most benevolent best. We can overcome any obstacle. We can heal and resolve every trauma, every core wound. It is possible. We do have to apply ourselves. We do have to show up for ourselves. We do have to decide we're willing, and we do have to take appropriate action. I know for me, I've made these kinds of healing sessions as affordable as I can possibly make them for people, so that I can reach the most number of people and be of service to the most number of people. But I also know it's up to you to show up. So I hope that you will join us for this incredibly powerful and potent live event. And of course, you get the replay as well, and you get to hold and own the recording. It's the upcoming group healing and training event with me, Lori Spagna, live on Monday, September 26th at 5 p.m. Eastern. All you have to do to join us is head over to lorispagna.com under the live events tab and click on the link that says group healing and training events. And you'll be able to join us. You'll be registered. The call access information goes out just a few days right prior to the live event. So I hope to see you there, especially all of my fellow awakening beings. I love you so much. I know for those of us who are dedicating our lives to this kind of work and doing the inner transformation, we are the ones making such accelerated progress and truly stepping up and living a life outside of the old paradigm or that mainstream way of living in so much lack and limitation, where the energies of fear and anxiety and worry and doubt and upset and triggers, emotional and mental energetic triggers and relationship hardships, those things are not generally part of our lives. I will use this time for just one more example of another very close friend who, when I met her probably about 8 or 9 years ago and we first became friends, she was going through an enormous amount of anxiety and trauma, and she had a lot of, her energy field was full of just, hyper anxiety because her nervous system, as I mentioned, was overtaxed and overstimulated. She had to clear out a lot of stuff over the years. I've worked with her a lot directly. And she had a lot of that slave driver programming, work till you drop, work until you're miserable. She was not very good in her relationship experiences. She was having a lot of dynamics in her relationships where people were being abusive to her in many ways, taking advantage sometimes of her, even being dishonest with her, and sometimes sort of cheating on her in more intimate romantic relationships. And over the years, as she has continued to do healing with me and do DNA activations, I have witnessed incredible transformation in her. And she's a close friend. And what I've come to know is that when you want close friends around you, you have to be really willing. You know, when you want high vibe, progressive people around you, you have to be willing to clear out the stuff that keeps you in density. And because she has this particular friend, I've witnessed her transformation over the years. And we have an amazing and wonderful friendship. And when you get to see someone's transformation, you recognize that transformation is what has allowed me, in this case, to continue our friendship, because her dedication to her work allowed her to continue to evolve, right? Your dedication to your inner healing is what will allow you to continue to advance and evolve and to attract more into your life that is the very kinds of vibrations and energies that you want more of, whether it is healthier relationships or more enjoyable life experiences, expanded states of consciousness, healthier physical, emotional, mental body, whatever it is. So this is the kind of work we do. And I think it is not only fun and enjoyable and incredibly transformational, but truly powerful, potent, and effective, while still being so gentle and loving for us and for our bodies and our beings. So again, I hope you will join me. I will just say one last time, it is the group healing and training events. You will find it at my website at lorispagna.com under the live events tab. You just scroll down there. I'll put a link in the community newsletter and a link in the area below the video when we get this on the video live. And please do join us, right? Monday, September 26th, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific via webinar. And of course, you get the class recording as well so that you can continue to do the healing, because the more you do it, the better it gets. And if you do it just once, and that's enough too, that's fine. You'll get the maximum benefits every time you listen, whenever you listen, and it's up to you because you get the recording. Okay, I hope that's helpful, and I hope you will join me on Monday, September 26th for the group healing and training event. And until then, I just want to send you infinite love and light. You are my brothers and sisters of light. I love you, and I hope to see you soon. Okay, lots of love. Until then, bye-bye.